TFA fam, how do you do? Welcome into the Week 12 wide receiver rankings and must start show. Dive right into it. Our wide receiver ones for Week 12 are as follows: Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel, Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, and Mike Evans to round things out. Moving on to the wide receiver twos for Week 12. Michael Pittman, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Cooks, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, Hunter Renfrow. And then our wide receiver threes are Elijah Moore, Chase Claypool, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Gallup, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman, Manny Sanders, Jacoby Myers, Courtland Sutton, Corey Davis, Marvin Jones, and then Brandon Ayuk finishing things up. So if you are checking this out for the first time, we've switched it up a little bit, what we have been doing. We don't need to tell you that Stephon Diggs is a great start and things like that. So we're trying to give you some information on some guys a little bit further on down the list. So Kev, kick things off. Who are some guys down in that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 range that you think the folks here need to be plugging into their lineups?
Yeah, the first guy I'm going to talk about is actually the wide receiver 3 overall since week 7, and that is Elijah Moore. He gets Houston Texans this week. He is averaging 15.6 fantasy points per game since week 7. He's also averaging 7.4 targets, 5 receptions for 69.8 receiving yards, and almost a touchdown per game over that span. He's also 11th in yards per out run and 10th in yards after the catch over that same span. Houston is 14th in pass DVOA. So they have actually fallen in pass DVOA. Earlier in the year, they were actually right around the 5th, 6th. So they've actually fallen all the way down to 14th. They also have allowed the 12th most fantasy points to wide receivers. He's going to get a few different matchups, and all of them are pretty good. He's either going to see Terrence Mitchell, who has an 87.7 passer rating, has allowed 285 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns, or Desmond King, which allows 76% completion percentage, 369 yards, 3 touchdowns at 102.5 passer rating. So Elijah Moore has a great matchup. He has turned into the alpha in this offense, and things that you love to see is Elijah Moore breaking out. One of our favorite wide receivers heading into this year. We'll see if Joe Flacco starts again this week, because it was looking like possibly Zach Wilson was going to return. We'll see if Joe Flacco does return and get a matchup against Houston. Joe Flacco against Tyrod Taylor. It's like a blast from 2015. Here we are. So Elijah Moore, definite start this week. And then we have Darnell Mooney, who again continues to put up points. Last week, he was targeted 16 times for 5 receptions for 121 yards, a touchdown in week 11. On the season, he plays 85% of the snaps. He gets 25% of the targets, 32% of the market share of the air yards. And over the last 4 weeks, he is the wide receiver 15. He's 22nd in yards after the catch and 26th in yards per route run. In his matchup, they get the Detroit Lions, who are 28th in pass DVOA. He's either going to see Amani O, who allows a 70% completion percentage, 393 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 85.8 passer rating. And then it just gets worse from here. Jerry Jacobs, 60% completion percentage for 203 yards and a touchdown, but allows a 99.2 passer rating. And then A.J. Parker, 78% completion percentage, 208 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 120.4 passer rating. So Darnell Mooney is going to get a great matchup here. He's going to see a ton of targets. I highly doubt Allen Robinson returns. They've already said if they were to practice today, he would not have practiced. So he does not sound like he is trending in the right direction, nor does this entire franchise, because it did come out today that the entire that team is against Matt Nagy. But the problem is the Bears have never in their entire 100-plus year history ever fired a coach in season. So Matt Nagy's not going anywhere this year. Regardless of that, Darnell Mooney, great play this week against Detroit. The last one is Brandon Ayuk, continues to get better and better. Wide receiver 18 over the last 4 games, 14.5 fantasy points per game. He's averaging 7 targets per game and a 62.75 yards per game over that stretch. He's seen 27 targets for 21 receptions, 251 yards, and 2 touchdowns, which is good for 58 fantasy points over that span. This is a great matchup for him against Minnesota. Allowed the 2nd most fantasy points, 3rd most receiving yards, 5th most touchdowns to receivers. He's either going to see Mackenzie Alexander, who has allowed 109.4 passer rating, 60% completion percentage, 347 yards, 16.5 yards per reception, and 2 touchdowns, or Bashaud Breeland, who's allowed 109.1 passer rating, 65 completion percentage, 504 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So this secondary is absolutely terrible. Patrick Peterson could possibly return, but guess what? The old man hasn't been all that much better either from this year or really last year, both averaging over a 90 plus passer rating as well. So Patrick Peterson, even if he returns, doesn't really help a whole lot here. So Brandon Ayuk makes a lot of sense in a game that is likely going to have a lot of points scored. So I do like Brandon Ayuk a lot this week.
Yeah, those are all names that I like a lot as well. I got two that I'm going to tack on here. One, Rashad Bateman. I think he's in a really nice bounce back spot here. Obviously, not having Lamar didn't help last week. He should be back this week. And if you're going to check that box beside Bateman's name, you look over at Cleveland and you might not feel too good because they actually are performing pretty well against the pass. They've given up the 13th fewest half PPR points per games to wide receiver, but they are 26th in pass DVOA. Part of the reason why they look so much better on paper, there's a handful of games that's really contributing to that. Week 3, the Justin Fields week, whenever we were all excited, and then that just went down the tubes quickly. They allowed a combined 36 yards to A-Rob and Mooney that week. They allowed a combined 130 to Jefferson and Thielen the following week. They had 84 receiving yards to the wide receivers against the Broncos. And then, Tim Boyle and the Lions come through last week. 18 yards to wide receivers. And all that went to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So you add all that up, that's going to make everything look a lot better. But like I said, 26 in pass DVOA. I like this bounce back spot. The over-under is sitting at 46 right now, so not a huge total, but I do like this game. And then I'm going to stay in the AFC North. Another guy I'm going to talk about here, Chase Claypool. And if you want to talk about someone who is up and down and boom bust, look no further than Claypool. On the season, he has 4 games of 70-plus yards and 4 games of 45 yards or fewer. And he only has 3 games this season of wide receiver 2 production or better in half PPR scoring. The game against Cincy provides another opportunity to have a boom game. And much like the Browns, Cincy looks good on paper whenever we're looking at wide receiver production. They're actually bottom 10 in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. But the reason why I like Claypool in this game, the Bengals have actually allowed the 4th most receptions of 20-plus yards on the year. That obviously lines up with what Chase Claypool does well. Ben Roethlisberger becomes a little bit of a limiting factor, but if we go back to the game they played earlier this year, he went 9 for 96 against this team. The Bengals are also in the bottom half of the league in terms of their blitz percentage, so that's going to help out somebody like Big Ben as well. So Bateman and Claypool I really like as wide receiver 3s this week. That is going to wrap up everything for us. Thank you for checking it out. If you're listening on podcast, please leave us a rate and review. If you're on the YouTube side of things, if you're not yet subscribed, hit us with a subscribe, give us a like, and let us know what you thought of some of these picks, and we'll talk to you later.